Diabetes Connections is brought to you by One Touch. Every touch is a step forward. By Dexcom. Take control of your diabetes and live life to the fullest with Dexcom. And by Real Good Foods. Real food you feel good about eating.
This is Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
This week, country star Eric Paslay is on his Nice Guy tour right now, performing around the U.S. and the world. He says he shares his CGM info with his band and his tour manager.
He'll let me know over our in-ear monitors where the crowd doesn't even know what's happening. He'll be like, hey, we got an arrow down, orange juice. I'll go over and drink out of the Dixie cup. The crowd thinks I'm just partying along, and I'm making sure the party keeps going and gets some sugar in me.
We hear more about handling type 1 on the road. Eric and I also nerd out on podcasting a little bit. He started his own show, Level With Me, all about living with type 1 diabetes, earlier this year. Tell me something good this week. So much creativity this Diabetes Awareness Month. Did you see The Bachelor with diabetes? We'll take a look at some fun videos that really stood out. This podcast is not intended as medical advice. If you have those kinds of questions, please contact your healthcare provider. Welcome to another week of Diabetes Connections. I'm your host, Stacey Sims. So glad to have you along. We aim to educate and inspire about type 1 diabetes by sharing stories of connection. As this podcast is released, it is the week of Thanksgiving. So if you are traveling, wish you very safe travels. If you're prepping, man, I hope that the work is going okay. This is one of the best holidays, right? Because there's no gifts. There's nothing but family and food. But family and food with type 1 diabetes or any kind of diabetes can be a little difficult. So we have done some great episodes in the past. I will link those up in the show notes. Just recently, Maura McCarthy and I did a Dear D Mom talking about advice when you're, especially early on, like one of those first holidays when your child has type 1 diabetes, but some advice in there even for the more experienced. And then one of my favorite episodes, I had a roundtable of adults who live with type 1 who just shared stories of what has worked for them over the years, crazy things family has said. And I will link that up as well. And all of that, of course, is in the Facebook group. It's Diabetes Connections, the group, if you haven't been there yet. So a very happy Thanksgiving. But this show isn't going to be about Thanksgiving per se, although there's a lot to be thankful here. I will make a terrible segue and say I'm really thankful for the reception my book has gotten. The World's Worst Diabetes Mom is available on Amazon as a paperback and as an ebook. I promise the audiobook is coming. But we had a really fun event locally here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, a book signing basically in my backyard, in my town, with our local bookstore, which is one of those great independent local bookstores. And Benny came and my husband came, and it was wonderful. My daughter's away at college, but she sent me the nicest text of support. Oh, it was great. Quick note about the book here, and I promise it won't be all about the book, but I do have a little bit to tell you here, and then in exchange, I'm going to add something at the end of the show. I want to tell you about some stuff I've learned through this process. It'll make you look at Amazon book reviews, the editorial reviews, a little bit differently, so that's at the end of the show. But with The World's Worst Diabetes Mom, I've received a couple of emails about how to get the book signed and sent to someone who wants to give it as a gift or who wants it for themselves. But mostly these were guys who wanted to give it as a gift to their wife or their mom. And the only way to do that right now is not to buy it through Amazon. If you want me to sign it and send it out in the mail, you've got to go to diabetes-connections.com. Right on the front page, it'll say, order Stacey's book. Go ahead and click through that. If you go all the way to the end, to the page where you pay, and scroll to the bottom, there's a little box that says order notes. Optional. And then it'll say notes about your order, special notes for delivery. Well, in that box, that's where I need you to write, please personalize this book. Please sign this book for so-and-so. Every order that comes through the website, I do sign. But if you put something personalized in that order notes box, I will make it out to Stacey. Your husband says you are the best diabetes mom ever, or whatever you want me to say. I promise if you're getting it for your wife or your mom, I'm not going to say that they're the worst unless I know them. And then I probably will say that. Whatever. I will write what you'd like me to write. And I'll tell you what happened at the book event that was very interesting to me is that a friend of mine who's an adult with type 1 came and said that he knows that the audience for the book is supposed to be moms or parents of kids with type 1. But he, as an adult, he's got 2 little kids of his own. He was diagnosed as a kid. He wanted to read it and then share it with his mom and have some conversations about whether she could relate to any of it. And I thought that was really cool. So I have an event coming up in December here in Charlotte that I'm inviting moms and dads of kids with type 1, but I'm also inviting adults with type 1. Don't tell them. I'm going to ask them to be kind of a focus group. I mean, we're meeting at a bar, but still. I want to kind of pick their brains a little bit because I've also gotten some reviews on Amazon that say the same thing, that this is not just a book for parents, but that adults with type 1 can relate to it. And it's giving them some ways to bring up conversations with their parents about topics that they hadn't talked about in a very long time. So I'm so thrilled with the reception the book is getting. It's hard to sit with something like this for such a long time and not know. So thank you all for the incredible reception and the support that you're showing. I'm so thrilled. And I love hearing everybody else's stories about the worst because we all have them, right? All right. Okay. Eric Paslay in just a moment. But first, it is hard to think of something that's changed our diabetes management as much as the Dexcom Share and Follow apps. The amazing thing to me is how it's helped us talk less about diabetes. That's the wonderful thing about Share and Follow as a caregiver, a parent, a spouse, whatever. You help the person with diabetes manage in the way that works for their individual situation. Internet connectivity is required to access Dexcom Follow. Separate Follow app required. Learn more. Just go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Dexcom logo. My guest this week is country music star Eric Paslay. He is touring right now. I caught up with him. This is several weeks ago, actually, but there's nothing dated here. I wanted to talk to him again. He was first on the show back in 2017 because in addition to being diagnosed with type 1 at age 10, he is now a podcast host. He started Level with me this year. I'm not sure if he's coming back with that or if it was a one-season thing. When we talked, they hadn't quite worked it out. It's a branded podcast with Dexcom. But we had fun talking about the technical side of podcasting and what he got out of meeting so many people living with type 1. So here is my talk with Eric Paslay. Eric, welcome back to the show. I'm excited to talk to you again. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Stacey. Good to be back.
All right. So you put your podcaster hat on. And I wanted to talk to you all about that because truly, doing a show like that, is such an incredible experience. I'm not sure people realize how much fun it is to be on this side of the microphone, talking to other people, going through experiences with type 1. What was it like for you to do that?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's fun to get to talk to people. There's so many awesome podcasts out there about juvenile diabetes. And you're a rock star at it with Diabetes Connections. And I think it was just fun doing Level with me. We get to go visit people at their houses where they're at and you hear what life's like with diabetes. I think a lot of times it's either you have diabetes, the world's ending, or I'm overcoming and I'm everything. I can do anything. And a lot of times you don't talk about the in-between. And I think that's what these podcasts are great for, is just talking about new things happening. And with Level with me, we just got to talk about real life of how spouses and parents, like, you have a 14-year-old son with diabetes, being a parent, and just kind of all the day-to-day activities and things that you do to deal with having diabetes. And it was a lot of fun. And as you know, there's just incredible people all around the world. And it's fun meeting up with type 1 diabetics that really live life to the fullest.
As I said, though, it's a different hat for you to wear. What made you want to do something like this?
I mean, I think just talking helps people get used to talking about stuff. I mean, I think there's a lot of type 1 diabetics who hide it from the world. And it's like, how you go to work and no one knows you're diabetic. What if you actually do have a crazy low sugar level happen? What are they going to do? They're just going to not know you're diabetic. I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about it because they're either ashamed or they think they're not tough enough. And it's like, you should be excited. We're like living in a time where we're getting to survive as diabetics. But, I'm not afraid of a microphone. I'm not afraid of the studio. And when we thought, hey, let's do a cool little podcast, I was like, sign me up. That sounds like a good idea. And it sounds like a great way to get to meet great people and and just spread the news that you really can do anything. With me traveling around on the road all the time, it's crazy, crazy, crazy life of just traveling all the time. Not a lot of sleep, a lot of early flights, late shows, but it's cool. Just getting to talk about all the devices I know y'all talk about with the CGMs, Dexcom, and insulin pumps, and just all these cool things that really help you live life and not let diabetes get in the way too much.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because, you've been on the show before and shared a lot about how you do it on the road, but tell us a little bit about your routine these days with those early flights, as you mentioned, and kind of a crazy schedule. Anything you've learned that you can pass along?
I don't know. Protein bars that don't have tons of carbs let me cruise for a good time. I've learned that. I think it really is finally getting a CGM. It's like truly life-changing. It's you hear the beep, the bup, 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 and you go, okay, I need some sugar. Or the beep and go, wow, my insulin is not working. All the Dexcom, everyone knows that sound, in the middle of the night. You're like, oh, no, orange juice and protein bar time.
When did you start wearing a CGM?
I've had it about a few years, and it's truly life-changing. It really is mind-blowing thinking 100 years ago, they figured out these proteins make a thing called insulin and keeps us alive. And to think that we're holding a small TV in our hand that tells our blood sugar level, that we can share with friends on a phone is crazy. It's truly amazing to see how science and it's just amazing. Science and technology is coming together. It's exciting to see in the next even 10, 20, 30 years what happens with taking care of diabetes and just all kinds of sicknesses, just all the information coming together and people figuring it out. And you talk about it on your show. There's just so many cool things happening. I got to do an amazing tour at Vanderbilt here in Nashville a couple weeks back with Dr. Powers. He's my doctor here. And it's just exciting to see people doing such amazing research, trying to figure out the immune system and everything with beta cells, everything that a type 1 diabetic is made out of, trying to reset all those things. It's cool to just hear how many people really are out there trying to figure out a cure, and until we get a cure, figure out amazingly just easy ways to treat yourself.
I'm curious with the CGM, because you were diagnosed at 10, right?
Yeah.
What your mom and dad might think of a CGM. Do you share with them now as an adult?
No, I don't share with them now. They're fine. They don't take
I didn't think so.
I share it with my wife. No, I share with my wife so she knows where I'm at when I'm on the road, so it's early in the morning. She can check and see if my blood sugar level's cruising. And I share with my band. So my tour manager watches my blood sugar level on the road while I'm on stage. And that's insane. It's amazing. He'll let me know over our in-ear monitors where the crowd doesn't even know what's happening. He'll be like, hey, you got an arrow down, orange juice, I'll go over and drink out of the Dixie cup. The crowd thinks I'm just partying along, and I'm making sure the party keeps going and gets some sugar in me. It really is amazing. It's like a magic trick. And I think back to 20 some odd years of finger pricks and thinking how much of the picture I really didn't know, like really what was the patterns of my blood sugar level, and getting to see that on a graph now with the CGMs is truly amazing. And I think hopefully, add even more years to my life with taking even better control of my blood sugar levels.
Let's talk a little bit more about the podcast, because one of the really nice things about yours is you're able to get out of the studio. If you haven't listened, half the show, he kind of meets with the people he's talking to or hangs out with the family for a while. And then the second half, they're in the studio. So it's a really nice mix. And I'm always curious from a technical standpoint, how are you doing this stuff on the road? I mean, I'm going to get technical here. Are you wearing a mic? Do you have a crew? How does it all work? Right back to Eric in just a moment, and he'll answer that question. But first, Diabetes Connections is brought to you by OneTouch. Handwriting your blood glucose levels is the ultimate throwback. The OneTouch VarioFlex meter seamlessly syncs with the free OneTouch Reveal mobile app to create your dynamic electronic logbook. And when you choose the OneTouch Reveal mobile app, you'll be joining thousands of other people living with diabetes. In fact, as of this past October, OneTouch Reveal was the #1 downloaded diabetes management app in the US, Canada, France, and the UK. To upgrade today to the OneTouch VarioFlex meter and OneTouch Reveal mobile app, visit diabetes-connections.com and click on the OneTouch logo. Now back to Eric talking about production of his podcast.
Yeah, there's a crew. Go out, hang out with the families that we're talking with, and just kind of get the sounds of their life where they're at, their family, their kids running around. I think a lot of times when you're in the studio, you can talk about it, but you don't really hear the sounds of real life happening sometimes. And it just really is just a sweet moment where we get to go and hang out at people's houses or where they're living and hear everyday sounds of being diabetic. I think it helps people with just been diagnosed, who have been diagnosed for many years, to realize you're not alone. And there's a lot of people going through type 1 diabetes, and there's a lot of spouses and kids and family members who have people they love with type 1 diabetes, and just how do you live with that every day? And it really is. I think it's a really cool thing that we get to do, is go hang out with the families before we fly into Nashville, and we get to hang out in Blackbird Studios here in Nashville, where tons of cool records are recorded every year. So it's fun for them to come see that, and I get to tell them some stories of, hey, I cut my album in here and this and that. But it's fun. It really is. One thing on the podcast that I always try to make sure is, like, you're not just juvenile diabetic. You're a human being. Like, you're not just a juvenile diabetic. You're a mother, you're a father, you're a brother, sister. You're a professional, you're a student. And that was one thing I always try to make sure people remember, that they don't just wear "I'm a diabetic" T-shirt everywhere they go. It's like, no, it's one ingredient of your life, not your whole life, even though it definitely is a big part of how your engine runs. But just making sure people don't just categorize themselves only as sick, you know.
Yeah, that's what I say to a lot of parents. Remember, you're raising a child, not a number. You know, worry less about that straight line and worry more about is your kid happy.
Raising a child, not a number. Well, that's incredible. Good job.
And this is really a dumb question for people who are not in podcasting or in broadcasting. But I'm always curious, is there different mic technique? You know, when you're talking into the microphone and interviewing these people, and then you're singing or playing instruments, you know, are there different things that you need to do in the studio?
I think talking to the microphone, I mean, with singing a lot of times, you know, you do the vocal fade. Maybe I'll try the vocal fade while we're next podcast. Be like, it's so far away from you. When your blood sugar level's not where you want it to be. How do you level with it? You know, I don't know. I mean, it's
that's great.
Like we were just talking with this podcast right now. I mean, it's amazing just the technology we have from lapel mics, where you can hide a mic on you, to just a big old studio mic that you've used in radio for years. There's so many cool ways to do it. It truly is amazing. Just I mean, and there's so many podcasts out now from anything, and it's just so easy to really record a podcast these days with a computer and a home studio and all that. And we always joke in the music business, the coolest thing about a home studio is you can have a home studio. The worst thing about a home studio is you can have a home studio.
Can't get away from it.
Is it good for music? Is it bad for music? I don't know. You know, there's a lot of music, but it really is amazing.
It is.
Getting to do this right now, people getting to hear it through their little speakers wherever they're flying through the sky or driving in their car, listening on their smartphone to watching the device being when you're hopefully cruising at a good level.
Yeah. So, you know, you mentioned making music, and of course we haven't talked about that at all. Are you still having fun? What's, anything new?
Heck yeah. Earlier today I've been talking about we're going on tour in Europe here soon, and get back for a few days in Nashville and then go to Australia for a week. And just traveling around. I've got a live album from live in Glasgow that's coming out. Recorded it last summer in Glasgow, Scotland, and I have all the hits I've written for myself and other people, so we'll have the 5 number 1 songs on there.
That's great.
And excited for that to come out. People get to hear the whole band and hear us live. Fun show with a great crowd in Glasgow, Scotland. And then I've got a studio album that we just pretty much are done mixing and kind of putting the final touches on. That'll be out probably early next year. So got a live album and a studio album that are coming out, and excited to go touring and play these songs, and people get to hear how great the band is when we come to your town and hear us live. But a lot of really, really exciting things happening.
Keeping busy, man. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you spending some time. Welcome to the world of podcasting. I'm so glad you did it.
Thank you. I think the more of us talking about taking care of diabetes, the more people will be unafraid of asking a question of, hey, I'm having trouble with high blood sugar levels at night, or when I eat this, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, I think the more we talk about it, that will be, and more unafraid kids will be to raise their hand in class when they need to go see the nurse.
Yeah.
Really was. I was always so afraid to like disrupt class or something when I'm sitting there and I can feel my blood sugar level crash. And hopefully just people talking about it will help people not be afraid to get up from the meeting and go take care of their blood sugar levels so they can keep rocking and have a good time doing it.
You're listening to Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
I will link up more information about Level With Me, the podcast that Eric does, and of course, more information about his tour and his music. He's always fun to talk to. And did you know that his pediatric endocrinologist growing up is Dr. Stephen Ponder of sugar surfing fame? It is a small world. This community is so great. Always fun to talk to him. I hope you didn't mind the microphone conversation and things like that. I use a Audio-Technica ATR 2100. I used to use a Blue Yeti, which is a nice microphone, but I don't have enough soundproofing in this room to really make it shine. You really need a quiet room for the Yeti. And I also tend to talk with my hands. And if you listen to pretty much the first 100 episodes, 50, 75 episodes I did with the Yeti, you'll hear a lot of like that, because every time, could you hear that? It was like me banging on the desk, and it sounds like I am banging on the desk, but really what's happening is I'm just brushing the desk, but that Yeti picks everything up. And I like the ATR 2100, but I find that for remotes, like when I go to conferences or I talk to people out and about, it's got a lot of hand noise. So you hold it and you're, and that, I need a different microphone for that. So I've picked one out. I'm not sure I'm going to invest in it. They're not that expensive, the ones I'm thinking of, but we'll see how much traveling I do in 2020. I don't know why I went down the microphone track. If you're interested in the technical side of podcasting, I am always happy to share. It's much more simple, at least the way I do it, than I had feared when I first started. And obviously I have a lot of fun with it. And now I have, it's like any other collection. I have gadgets and stuff and lots of little things that I probably don't need, but they're fun to collect. Okay, time for Tell Me Something Good. And I'm taking a look at one of the best videos of Diabetes Awareness Month, and possibly the best video, I don't know, I think I've ever seen in our community, just in terms of pure entertainment and education. Tell Me Something Good, brought to you by Real Good Foods. You know, I really try to have dinner on the table 4 to 5 nights a week. I'm not saying the food is spectacular. I'm a pretty simple cook. My husband is an amazing cook, but, he travels, he works a ton. But I do things like right now I have chicken in the crock pot with some salsa on it. And I will be making some kind of chicken taco shredded thing. I don't even know what yet, but gotta love the crock pot. But there are those nights when you are busy and you're running out and you don't have time, or the day's gotten away from you. And I had one of those recently, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to make you for dinner. And Benny said, there's stuff in the freezer. I can always have a real good pizza. I said, he's right. Besides, he can cook anyway. I mean, he really can cook for himself. But it's so easy and convenient to have this stuff in the freezer. It's made with real ingredients. It is low in carb. It is high in protein. And most importantly, it tastes really good. Find out why Real Good Foods is changing the game. Find a store near you. You can find them for us, it's Publix and Harris Teeter right in the grocery store freezer, which is super convenient. Or go online and order a wide variety of products. Find out more, diabetes-connections.com, and click on the Real Good Foods logo. During Diabetes Awareness Month, which, holy cow, is just about over now, there's a lot of creativity. I mean, there are a lot of really great blogs and a lot of things written and a lot of attention and campaigns, but every once in a while you see a couple of videos or campaigns that really make a difference. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm watching this video out of the corner of my eye while I'm talking to you. Yes, I am talking about The Bachelor with Diabetes, which was produced by the folks at Diabetic. They make those beautiful handbags and backpacks, places to store and schlep your diabetes supplies. And they produced a video. I think they did this while everybody was out west for the Diabetic Awards earlier this fall. There are a lot of beautiful people in this video. And The Bachelor with Diabetes is obviously a takeoff of the TV show The Bachelor, which I haven't seen one episode of. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just not my kind of TV. But obviously you're familiar with it. If you live in this country, everybody just seems to know everything about it. And this parody is spot on. So I'm going to play a clip. But if you haven't seen it yet, I'm linking it up. I'm going to put it in the Facebook group as well. do yourself a favor. It's not that long. You will actually laugh out loud. And they just did such a good job of hitting the parody of The Bachelor, but also just life with diabetes and all the stupid and ridiculous things that can happen.
Watch as our Bachelor takes his shot at eternal love.
Falling in love is a lot like eating a slice of pizza. It's risky, but it's so worth it.
Chasing the highs and managing the dramatic lows.
Sarah G is not here for the right reasons. I heard she's here to get on his insurance plan.
Oh my God. Maya Beddick, you hit it out of the park with this one. So well done. And again, that was just a little clip. Head over to the Facebook group to see the entire thing. And I hope this becomes a yearly tradition. You know, maybe they could do a different show every year. It was so well done. Another thing I wanted to tell you about with Tell Me Something Good. This is one that was posted from a listener, and I really appreciate this. Letty, thank you for sharing it and for bringing back some great memories. Her son and a friend were on what I think is the local school news. Does your elementary school or even your middle school have like a morning report, a school news thing? And so these kids are on the news doing a Diabetes Day report. And they showed the video on Diabetes Awareness Day on the 14th. And apparently, Letty says this school really goes above and beyond. The whole school has worn blue in the past. The kiddo featured here and his friend have homemade shirts that say Type Wonderful. It just brought back a lot of memories because Benny used to do this. Oh my gosh. During his elementary school years. In fact, in 4th and 5th grade, we had 3 other kids in the school who had type 1. And this is actually how if you've seen my Diabetes Connections presentation, this is how I kind of got started, was with these moms. I have a local Facebook group that has about 700 people in it. We meet up and we do things, but it started with these moms in my elementary school. And then we started a JDRF walk team when Benny was in 4th grade. And it was Benny, Ella, Addie, and Michael. We put their names together and the Beam Team was born. And we did that for 2 years. The entire elementary school got involved. It was absolutely amazing and wonderful and so supportive. But it just reminded me because the kids are lined up, the 4 of them, doing the morning news, not sure exactly what to say, reading from the piece of paper, but excited to be in front of their friends. And it was just really nice. And of course, then he got to middle school and was like, yeah, I'm done with the walks. I don't need to do a team. And in fact, the book event that I mentioned that we did here in Davidson was a fundraiser for his team, which has always been called Benny's Brigade when it wasn't the Beam Team. And he said to me, we still have that. I was like, we've never stopped having it. We've always had the team, even when we don't actually go to the walk, which we've still gone to every year. This year he was Rufus at the walk, but I guess he didn't think of it as having a team because he was just helping out by being Rufus, the bear with diabetes, the JDRF mascot. But we've always had it. He kills me. I don't know. All right. So that is our Tell Me Something Good. If you've got something good going on, an accomplishment, a fun video, your kid did something, you did something, let me know. You can post it in the Facebook group or email me, Stacey at diabetes-connections.com and tell me something good. At the top of the show, I said I was going to talk about Amazon book reviews. I want to start by saying thank you to those who've already purchased the book and left a review. I'm certainly not going to read them all, but I did want to read 1 or 2 here, just a little bit from them. Sugarless Love says a must read for any T1D. She, I guess, says the majority of books about type 1 diabetes are filled with overwhelming amounts of medical information, scary what ifs, and worst case scenarios. Stacey's book is refreshingly real while remaining informational and easy to understand. I was only 35 pages into the book and I had already laughed, cried, and made an embarrassing number of other noises somewhere between a snort and a chuckle. I finished the book in a matter of hours, and all I can say is, I wish Stacey was my diabetes mom. Oh my goodness. As someone who has lived with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years, I have read a lot of books about diabetes, and I cannot recommend this one enough. And there are more, but that was the one that got me thinking about adults with type 1 reading the book. So thank you so much for that. That was just, it's so lovely to read these reviews. I read them all and I appreciate them all so much. But the editorial reviews are where I got a bit of a surprise. So once the book was live and I got a few reviews, Beyond Type 1 had reviewed it, Diabetes Daily had done something on it. Diabetes Forecast magazine, my understanding, is doing something in their January, February issue, and Diabetes Mind had reviewed it as well. So I had these editorial reviews, right? Those are the ones that are from publications, not individuals who have just purchased the book. So I kind of waited around to see what would happen. And then I called my publisher and said, hey, what do we do about the editorial reviews? Like, when do those populate? And she said, Stacey, you put those in yourself, or the publisher puts them in. But we have it set up so that I pretty much control everything that's on Amazon. They set it all up. I don't know how everything works on Amazon in terms of sales. I mean, we have sales in Italy and the UK. I don't know how those books are getting there. I assume they're printed there. I assume the European versions are still in English because I didn't do any kind of translation. So obviously I don't know what I'm doing on Amazon. But they showed me where to go in and how to monitor stuff and how to edit stuff. And you put in your own editorial reviews. The author can do it. The publisher can do it. Anybody who has control of the Amazon page, which is usually the author or the author's agent, someone who's doing it for them. So, I did excerpts of the reviews like you do, and you can see them, chicken soup for the diabetes mom's soul, and then part of the review and blah, blah, blah. But it occurred to me that whose mind in the store? Is Amazon going to actually go through and check all of my reviews? I mean, I think it's a great book, but this is not a New York Times bestseller. Are they going to come through and really check my reviews? I could put in, New York Times says, best diabetes book we ever read. Sure to win every award. Stacey is a genius, and boy, is she hot, too. I mean, you could put in whatever you want. My mind was blown. So if you already knew this, good for you. But it made me think, editorial reviews are not exactly where I'm going to go to look for my next book. Although I promise mine are all honest. They're all linked up on my blog. They're all sourced. You can see where they come from. I didn't make anything up, I promise. But when I look at other people's books, I am totally going to go for the verified purchases and the reader reviews, because who the heck knows where those editorial reviews are really coming from? Were you surprised by that? I was absolutely shocked. Maybe I shouldn't have told you. All right. Anyway, lots of great shows still to come this year. Yeah, we are winding it down. Isn't that crazy? Oh, my goodness. Next week, I am talking to one of the Beyond Type Run folks, one of the guys who is in the New York City Marathon. So I'm really excited about that. Plus, he's a big comic book guy, which is always fun for me. So we talked about that a little bit as well. Okay. I am looking ahead to 2020, which is unbelievable. Lots of events coming up, lots of fun stuff. I have an idea based on the book that I think I'm going to have to figure out how to get done because, oh my gosh, my brain is spinning with all the feedback I've been getting. But I'll keep you posted. You know how we roll around here. We have an idea, we try it out, it works great. If it doesn't work, we try again. Right? That's like diabetes anyway. Okay. Thank you to my editor, John Buchanan from Audio Editing Solutions. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Stacey Sims. I'll see you back here next week.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.